Before learning some more about perimeter and area, let's review really quickly. I have a rectangle here with a width of 3 centimeters and a length of 4 centimeters. To find the perimeter, I plug my numbers into my formula. My formula for perimeter is length plus width, or I can write my formula as 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Either way, when I put those numbers in, I'm going to get the answer that the perimeter is 14 centimeters. That is the area that goes around my rectangle. To find the area of my rectangle, which is the inside of my rectangle, I use the formula area equals length times the width. So I plug my numbers in. I have area equals 4 times 3. So my answer is 12 square centimeters. Remember, when I multiply these, I need to add this unit of square centimeters because I'm multiplying them. I'm not just adding all of them together. Now to look at a fractional unit area of our rectangle, we're going to pretend that we're going to use a little magnifying glass and we're going to just look at this one blue square to now try one of our fractional units. Now we have zoomed in on our little blue part of our rectangle. And now we see that we have fractional units. We have 2/3 centimeters on the width and 3/4 centimeters. Let's see, that was wrong. We have 2/3 centimeters on our length and we have 3/4 centimeters on our width. So how do we figure out the area of this shaded in spot? Now remember, we can see that this is the thirds because it's broken up in thirds going down and it's broken up in fourths going across. That's how we know that the 3/4 goes on this side and the 2/3 goes on this side. So if we look at our formula, we have area equals length times the width. So we're going to do the same thing. We are just going to plug those numbers right into our formula. So when I plug those two fractional numbers in, I have 2/3 times 3/4. Now remember, when I'm multiplying, I don't need to worry about finding the same denominator. I can just multiply straight across. When I multiply those across, I get 6 for my numerator and 12 for my denominator. Remember, I have to put that square centimeters in my answer because I multiplied. I can also reduce my answer to 1/2 square centimeter and I have the same answer. That would be both are the same answer because 6/12 and 1/2 are equivalent fractions. All right, so now we have our big rectangle here so we can compare these two. Here we have our blue square that we used our magnifying glass and went in and looked at it really close like a microscope or a magnifying glass. And here it is right here. Now let's look at our answers. We have 6/12, and right here our answer was 12 square centimeters. So you notice that in both these answers we have the same number 12. That's because this is a fractional part of this area. So our whole number is right here, but then when we look at one little part of this rectangle, our denominator is going to be the same as our whole unit squares because we are looking at it very closely. All right, let's move on to something new. Here we have a new rectangle. We can see that we have our length is 53 feet. Our width, we're not quite sure. We have a W right there for our width. But in our area, we do know what that is, and it says that it's 795 square feet. So if we wrote our area formula, we're going to put our numbers in different places. Let me show you. All right, here I have my area formula. Area equals the length times the width. Well, if I plug my numbers in, I know that my area is 795 square feet. Then I know that my length is 53 feet for my L, and then I have my W. I'm not quite sure what my width is. Now, if you remember from our last unit that we did, to find out what the W is, we need to do the opposite operation. So we have multiplication happening right here. But I need to figure out what my W is. So I need to do some division. I need to divide 795 by 53 so I can figure out what my W is. Let's figure that out together. All right, I'm going to use my tools that I used before with our two-digit division. So I want to use the expanded notation way. So when I look at 53 going into 795, I'm thinking easy numbers. I know that if I use a 10, that would be too high because 50 times 10 would be, actually 50 times 10 might work, but we're going to stick with 5 to make it easier. So sorry for that little distraction. I was doing some math in my head. I'm going to start with 5. So if I do 53 times 5, I get 265. Now I need to do my subtraction to find out how much I have left over. All right, after I subtract, I have 530. Well, I know because of my mental math that I was just doing before that if I multiply 53 times 10, all I need to do is add that 10 on to my 53, which would be adding that 0. So that would be 530. So I know that I can use 10 and then 5 to get my answer. So when I subtract my 530, I'm going to have a 0. All right, so when I subtract 530 minus 530, I have 0. So now I know that all the numbers I need at the top of my division problem are 5 and 10. When I add those two together, I get 15. So now down here, I know that my width is equal to 15. Now I can check that by doing 15 times 53, and if I get 795 square feet, I know that I did it right. All right, here we are. We have a rectangle. We know our area is 2 square feet. We know that our width is 1/3 feet, but our length is 1/3 feet. Our width is missing. We do not have our W. Oh, hold on 1 second. Found a typo. We'll see if you found my typo or not. I fixed it. So we have our area equals our length times our width. So I am missing my, let's see, I think I have another typo. Let's see if you catch it. There you go. I fixed it. I had my length and my width confused. All right. So when I plug in the right numbers in the right places, I have 2 square feet equals 1/3 feet times my width. Now see, I still messed up. All right, we're going to start right from the top. We have our rectangle here, and we are going to plug our numbers that we have into our right formula now that I have it all worked out. So I have my area equals length times width. Then I have 2 square feet, because that is my area, equals 1/3 feet, which is my length, times my width, which is missing. Now, because this is a multiplication problem, my typos weren't wrong, but I wanted to keep everything the same so it didn't confuse you. So I'm sorry if my little typos were confusing you. I just wanted to make sure we stayed consistent. So now we have it right where our length is the 1/3 feet and our width is the one that is missing. So when we plug that in, we have our numbers. Now, just like before, we have multiplication, and so now we need to switch it and we need to do division to find out. Now, because area is my whole, we don't have our cheater poster, which is kind of difficult, but we know that when we divide, the thing that we are dividing from is our first number that we put. So that would be 2 because that's what we're taking it from. That is our whole right there. Then we are going to divide that by 1/3. So now we're going to do keep, change, flip to do our division. Once I do keep, change, flip technique, I can do R2, and then I'm multiplying because I keep that. Oh, I need to change this to a multiplication. Here we go. I have 2 now because I keep my 2. I change my division to multiplication, and then I flip my fraction. So now I have, if I go straight across, I have 2 times 3 is 6. And we have an imaginary 1 right here because 2 over 1 would be the same as 2. So then 1 times 1 is our 1 for our denominator. And then our 6 with our 1 as our denominator is the same as our whole number 6. So our width would be 6. Let's try one more together. All right, here is our new problem. We have our area and we have our width, but we do not have our length. So when we think about our formula, where are you going to put the numbers that we have? Think about that. All right, when we plug in our numbers, we have 7 square yards equals our length times 1/2 yard. So now I need to write this out in my division problem. Remember, I'm doing the opposite operation. So I need to use my division. Where am I going to put my numbers? Think about it. What's my total? What number is going to come first? My area is going to go first because that's the total amount of yards that I have. So I have 7 divided by 1/2 yard will equal my length. So I'm going to use my technique again of keep, change, flip. What do you get for your answer? All right, now I have written out my problem with keep, change, flip. I kept my 7, I changed my division to multiplication, and then I flip my fraction to 2 over 1. So now if I do my multiplication straight across, I get 14 yards. My length is going to be 14 yards. I can multiply 14 times 1/2, and that should get me my answer of 7 square yards. That is my area. All right, you are ready for our assignment. Our assignment is going to be in Think Central today. I wanted to bring your attention though to a problem right here. If you look at the screen, I have 4 and 8/10 for my width. My length is missing, but for my area, I have 29 and 76/100 square meters. Now I want you to look. Both of my width and my area have a decimal in them. We did not learn how to divide a decimal by a decimal. So if you come across a problem like this, you don't need to try and figure it out. You just can skip it. Do not get frustrated. Don't try and do one of these. We didn't learn how to do this. So you may skip these problems. If it's a whole number and a decimal number, we can do that. But we didn't learn how to do 2 decimal numbers for our divisor and our dividend, so these ones you can skip. All right, good luck guys. Send me with any questions you have.